Welcome back. Welcome back. This is the People's Voice. I am Trey Evans, and I am the People's Voice. Thank you again for checking out the podcast this week. As always, it is greatly appreciated. As always, we thank everyone who has taken some time to listen to the podcast today. We do understand that you could be utilizing this time to do something else, so we are appreciative that you're taking that time to spend with us. As always, if this information is valuable, you find it to be enlightening and worth sharing, we ask that you subscribe to the podcast and turn on notifications. That way you'll be notified when each episode is released. And we do put out a new episode each and every Friday, which is heard on all podcast platforms. And then we also can put a video out on YouTube every weekend. We do put out a video out on YouTube every Wednesday as well for those who would like to watch the podcast. But in any event, we say welcome and welcome to the People's Voice podcast. So today I want to get into the topic of school superintendents and school superintendents in public schools here in the United States. And I want to talk about this today because there was a recent story that came out of the Atlanta school district where there was a superintendent who recently was relieved of his duties. I should say was voted on by the school board that he would no longer continue on. I don't want to make it like he got fired from doing something. But the school board said that they would not continue with his tenure. And as of April 1st of this year, that superintendent will no longer be in place. I believe the superintendent's name was Dr. Calvin Watts. I'm highlighting this, and I wanted to talk about school superintendents today because I know I'm sounding like a parakeet, but I repeat it often. I'm very, very much in tune with the educational system here in the United States, and anytime that I come across information, I want to highlight certain aspects of it just to bring it to the attention of those who, you may know about it and you haven't you haven't visited in a while, or, it might not be top of mind. And I want to kind of, give you this information, especially as you make decisions, for your family, your community, so on and so forth. But in any event, what piqued my interest about this particular story was the superintendent that's being relieved of his duties is receiving a buyout of his contract because, for many who may not know, these superintendents around the country are often hired under a contract. So essentially they are contractors, if you want to be technical with it, but because of the title and also some of the profile that comes with it, I think sometimes that gets lost on people. But in any event, he's getting a buyout of his contract. And I'm highlighting this because this is a common practice in education today, in public education. Specifically where there's constant conversation about the lack of compensation that, in my opinion, the most essential part of the public education experience lies in the teachers themselves. You've heard over and over again, teachers are some of the most underpaid professionals in the United States in any industry, specifically when you start to get into, the K through 12 system. And so I wanted to talk about this today. I want to talk about superintendents, number one, the compensation that they're receiving, because I was blown away about how much money is paid to these superintendents. Number two, I want to talk about, highlight a little bit of exactly what does a superintendent do, and why are these payments to these individuals so high? And then last but not least, I want to talk about the effects that occur when you have situations like this where superintendents are basically cut short of their contracted time, what effect that has on the most essential part of this, again, which are the students in the districts that these superintendents oversee. I guess to start, I will start with, let me start with the story out of Georgia. So this is, again, out of the Gwinnett School Board, which is down in Atlanta. And they talked about not only the firing of the superintendent, but the reporter also highlighted the cost of these buyouts. And I want to kind of highlight this, and then I'll kind of move on from there. So this is from 11 Alive in down in Atlanta. So listen to this.
Digging through the superintendent contracts across Metro Atlanta, what did you find out?
Well, I looked at 10 years worth of superintendent contracts in Metro Atlanta and found six-figure buyouts are relatively common. Atlanta, Clayton, DeKalb, Fulton, and Gwinnett public schools have all ousted superintendents in one way or another over the last 8 years, costing taxpayers more than $1.3 million in severance.
And I want to stop it right there. $1.3 million in severance over the last basically 8 to 10 years in buyouts for superintendents that have been that have been let go down there in that Atlanta area. That's a lot of money, right? To say the least. I don't have to highlight that too much. That's a lot of money to be paying out. But that story made me want to go deeper to find out, okay, well, if they're paying that type of money for buyouts, how much are these superintendents making? So I went to the Association of Superintendents, and they did a study back in 2023 where they highlighted, they did a survey. They conducted a survey of superintendents around the country, and their sample size came back, I think it was about 2,300 superintendents actually responded back to it. And in this study, they broke down how much on average that these superintendents are making. And I'm pulling that up for those of you who are watching the YouTube. You can see this, but based on this study, and again, this is I believe from between 2021 and 2022, or 2022 and 2023, they averaged that, or they reported that the average salary for superintendents was about $158,000, right?
Men lie, women lie. The numbers don't.
And those numbers are not inflated. These are, again, this is a study that was conducted or a survey that was asked of for the superintendents that are in the roles today. So looking at this chart here, it says the superintendent base salary for 2022-2023 was on average, the median salary was $156,000. And again, that's on average. And I should have pulled that up in terms of the number of districts that are the total number of superintendents in the country. But in any event, $156,000 based on this salary. Based on this survey. In some of the school districts where there are larger amounts of students, right? So if you're talking about school districts like LA Unified District, or you're talking about New York City, things of that nature, major metropolitan centers, you're talking about salaries well beyond, 300, even beyond 400,000. Matter of fact, here in this survey, and again, this is only the ones that responded, the max salary, one of the max salaries that are listed here is $400,000 a year for a superintendent. And again, I'm highlighting this because the role of the superintendent, and I pulled this up from Drexel University, because I kind of was reviewing what their education program is, and on their site they kind of break down, what a school superintendent does, and what they're responsible for. But for those salaries, those individuals are responsible for truly the direction of what will happen with that school district. Well, just follow me. I'm going somewhere. Here on the Drexel site, one of the questions that I want to know, what does a school superintendent do? It says school superintendents are transformational leaders who facilitate change to meet the challenges facing education today. This position requires someone with a strong vision of what education should be, passionate about improving the delivery of instruction, and ready to create learning environments to prepare tomorrow's global leaders, right? And then it gives an overview of some of the responsibilities. It doesn't, get granular, but it says oversees the academic achievement of students, obviously manages the school district's budget, hire high level staff, and then also you have to, meet and provide updates to the school board. So this role is truly important, and in such a truly important role, you would think that there would be a greater level of not only tenure, right, but also, I guess, greater critique is what I'm looking for before a individual is selected. Because based on some of the research that I've done, it is stated that many superintendents usually are in that position anywhere from 3 to 5 years on average. Now, there are definitely anomalies with school districts where you have superintendents like there's a school district in Sacramento, I think it's Elk Grove, and that superintendent has been in place, well over a decade. But on average, these superintendents are not in the roles for quite a long time. Matter of fact, I'm looking at that same survey from the Superintendents Association, and in that same survey, about 50%, close to 50% of individuals were in the role between 1 to 5 years. And then after that, it kind of trickles off. So it says 1 to 5 years. It was about 47% that said that they were in the role 1 to 5 years. And then after that, it kind of falls. 6 to 10 years is, about 25%, 26%. And then in terms of a decade or more, it's less than 10%. So when you have this type of responsibility, to oversee the direction of a school district, it really concerns me about what is happening in the state of education in our country if those that are been put in place are not staying in place to see their visions come to fruition. Because I can't imagine how you can change a school district in less than 3 years, 5 years, especially when you start to get to some of these larger school districts. In addition, the compensation packages that come along with this salary is unbelievable. And the concern is that for me, right, just somebody from the outside looking in who is not in education but know plenty of educators, there's serious concerns. Is this just a job for individuals? Do they just see this as a financial windfall, a financial opportunity, or are individuals truly committed to doing this work? The compensation packages for some of these leaders in these roles are quite extensive. Matter of fact, there was a report done, I think earlier this year. Well, there was a story back in 2023 where they talked about the salary for superintendents in Texas. And in this analysis that was done by CBS 11 in Texas, they also talked about the additional compensation that comes along with the salary. Because again, what I highlighted was just the salary, but there are bonuses that get paid out and there are additional perks that come with these jobs. Matter of fact, let me play this from CBS 11 in Texas, and then we'll close out from there. And they're talking about the additional compensation or perks that come with the salary of a superintendent.
For the board to pay a school superintendent.
That's why the full compensation package isn't always clear. School boards will often make the salary public without getting into the details of the contract. Sometimes they have to get creative. Nearly half the superintendent contracts we looked at include monthly allowances. Vehicle allowances can range from $150 to nearly $1,700 a month. Technology allowances from $100 up to $2,000 a month. 3 districts even offer civic activities allowances. Aubrey's leader gets $100, Wiley's gets $1,000, and Duncanville's superintendent gets $3,000 a month.
And again, that was from Texas, but this is common practice for many of these superintendents. So, you know, this should be concerning for all, especially when we start looking at the quality of education, specifically public education. Number one, we look at the compensation that is being received by the teachers themselves, the ones that are the very ones that are responsible for teaching these children. And then 3, when you start looking at the turnover in these positions, this has to be an alarm.
Men lie, women lie, the numbers don't.
For somebody, because you know, it's. I hear all of the criticism and people are getting upset because newly elected President Trump is talking about taking over, you know, the Board of Education or you know, education, instead of keeping it local, making it, you know, federally controlled and things of that nature. But when you start to hear these type of numbers and you start to see this type of volatility in such an important role, it raises a great deal of concern.
All I'm doing is presenting the facts.
Last but not least, there's also a huge discrepancy in terms of gender and race in these roles as well. Going back to that same study from the Superintendents Association, they noted in here as well that in terms of percentages from men to women, men typically are very much or not very much, men are dominant in the role of superintendents in these schools. And I bring that up because keep in mind that women are dominant in terms of the educators in education. When you start, especially when you start to get down to the local school level, the majority of educators are women. So there's another deep discrepancy that's for some reason not being highlighted, and it should be highlighted. I'm just, as I'm scrolling through here, I'm looking through for the exact number because I wanted to be correct, but I know it said something like 77% of superintendents were male, and then something like 28% of superintendents were females. Matter of fact, I do have the number right here. It says, and again, this is based on this study. This is not all superintendents, but it's a good sample size because I think it's like maybe 8,000 superintendents in the United States, and this came back with a total of 2,443 in this survey. But it says 72% of the superintendents are male and 26% are female. Keep in mind, when you start talking about educators here in the United States, the number is flipped. It's in terms of the number of females in education, it's more close to 77% females and 26% males. So there's another gender gap issue that has to be addressed as well in terms of leadership in the superintendent role for public schools here in the United States. But that's what I wanted to talk about today. You know, like I said, I saw this story break out of Atlanta, and I kind of wanted to just put this on everyone's radar, you know, and again, this goes back to making choices when you vote locally. And, you know, for those who know, I've stayed on making sure that people are aware about how important it is to vote locally. You know, again, the national election is very polarizing, and everybody can chime in because the information is right in front of you, and you feel like you're participating. But the real decisions take place at the local level, and who is on your school board ultimately is making these decisions when they are reviewing and considering candidates to go into these roles. So your vote can make a significant change and possibly allow for not only qualified candidates, but candidates that are dedicated to seriously making a change and will be staying in the fight for quite some time, and not just looking at this as a financial windfall or a high profile position. But that's what I wanted to talk about today. Like I said, I hope this information is valuable. As always, you can reach us on any of the social media platforms. You can reach me at I am Trey Evans on all social media platforms. You can also reach us at the People's Voice Podcast on Instagram. And then, of course, you can leave a comment on our YouTube page when we post the video. In addition, if you could, while you're listening to this, if you're listening, you know, whatever podcast platform you use to listen, please go ahead and rate the show. That way, it allows the distributors to kind of see what the feedback is, and then it gives us a little bit of a greater reach to new audiences, which we would greatly appreciate. But that is my time for today. As always, dreams are not just for sleeping. Please wake up and live your dreams. My name is Trey Evans, the People's Voice. Tell somebody about the dream. Salute.